I was recently in January in Egypt with our friend Russ and with my friend Fleming here. And we did a marvelous trip, which I strongly recommend if you can sign up with Russ. It's an extraordinary experience, 14 days, 3 weeks, a small group, 14, 15 people, exploring Egypt with Russ's incredible mindset and understanding of reality and of the history of our culture. And it was really an eye-opening experience. And one of the temples we visited is the temple of Dendera. Dendera is, in my view, it was an aha temple. It was absolutely beautiful. It's the temple dedicated to the goddess Hathor. And in Egypt, gods don't have god entities as such. They're not human or powerful figures. They are more representations of values and of understandings of reality. So Hathor is this lady up here. And she has the shape of a female uterus. And she represents the beauty and the power of conception and the capability of reproduction of the human species. She is Eve in many ways. And in this temple, there was a rooftop ceiling. This is called a stela. A stela is an illustration of stone. And I was very taken by this stela, and I just gazed at it. And this is the image of Nut. Now, Nut is a goddess, which of course is not a goddess, is not a human entity, but she is the universe. She is the all, she is the absolute. And Nut is, and you will often see her in this portrayal of encompassing everything. And as you can see, Nut, who is the universe, the all, the everything, is giving birth to Hathor. And in the process of giving birth to Hathor, she imprints 9 rays of energy. And I was very struck by this image. And I thought it was very, very beautiful. And of course, the Egyptians are telling us that when we were born with 9 beautiful capabilities to be beautiful people. And Hathor would then take care of the descendancy of these energy throughout our species. But something happened. What happened? And so we're just going to leave this image here because it's very beautiful. So at some stage, all these energies which are available began to appear and disappear. And what do I mean by this? That as we well know, we have types. We are all types. But we also are non-types. We also have energies which are not available. So in my case, I've got a very low 6. And I'm hopeless at 6. I don't know what 6 is. And but I'm very good at 3. And so I've been thinking about this. And the organization has given me the opportunity of expand a bit more, because this was going to be a 20-minute presentation. And they said, can you do it 1.5? And I said, okay, I come from a country with inflation. So we can do this. We're accustomed to doing this. So we're going to take 20 minutes to 90 minutes, and I think we're going to get away with it. And, sorry, everybody speaks English.
Yes.
Okay. See, that's my non-6. Couldn't care less. Just launch into the presentation. So that's me, that's what I'm lacking as a human being, my non-6. I need to observe that. It talks a lot about who I am. And so I've given thought to it. So what happened? Now we are Homo sapiens.
Yes, patience, I like that.
Homo sapiens. And who was at the conference of Claudia Nario yesterday?
Which one?
Claudia Nario. Oh man, we lost the
Genetics, yeah.
We lost one of the best ones of the show. It was so good. This lady, what she did, she's sort of bioevolution, genetics.
Psychologist.
Yeah, and she explained the biological basis of human traits and human behaviors, and she did a correlation of the Enneagram types and the way human beings act in ancient times, in Neanderthal times, in Homo sapiens times, when we were hunters and gatherers, you know. And Homo sapiens have been around for about 200,000 years, of which only 3% of this time we've gone out from the cave. But before that, we lived in the cave, and we had cave behaviors. And we were tribes. We lived in small tribes of 50, 100 people, and which is very similar to what monkeys live. Monkeys live in small tribes. And the angle is that the tribe is as large as it can be, as much as I can know everybody. When I begin to lose contact with people, the tribe is too big. So I can handle those who I know. And in herd behavior, remember we are social animals, so we are mammals and we are herds. We develop personality traits which are complementary to the herd, which make the herd work. And the Enneagram values, and she explained this very clearly, it translates perfectly well to the caveman tribal world. So you had the hunter, which was the 3, you had the warrior, who was the 8, you had the nurturer, who was the 2, you had the magician, who was the 4, see? And you had the keeper of the knowledge, because that was then written, and there was no Encyclopedia Britannica, so they had the keeper of the knowledge was the 5, and so on and so forth. You get it. So these hunter-gatherers had a very powerful ego-driven structure, mind structure, which allowed them to operate very efficiently as herd in the distribution of responsibilities. Much more efficient if I specialize in hunting than if I don't. And that's what the herd expects from me. It expects X amount of people to do this, X amount of people to do that, and so on and so forth. But something happened. Those of you who have read *Sapiens* of Harari, which once again you have to read it, it's an incredible book. He points out something very dramatic. About 8 or 10,000 years ago, archaeologists have discovered a figure, which if I had known I had a long presentation, I would have it on the PowerPoint, but it's a figure of a human figure with a lion head, which is fictional. It exists, a unicorn. And this is the first trace that archaeologists have, of human beings recreating fiction, something that does not exist. And this, of course, has to do with our cognitive revolution, which is very, very, very recent, extremely recent, only 8,000 years ago, which in terms of evolutionary history is nothing. What happens with this hunter-gatherer society? Well, they become agricultural, they began to change their habits, but also their mindset begins to develop fictional understanding of reality. And through fiction, we begin to do things, and it gets very complicated and very interesting, but the bottom line is that we begin to transcend the limits of our tribe and become capable of organizing ourselves in large groups. And that's how we end up with nations and with empires, and that's how we end up sitting in a trench, ready to give my life for someone I have never seen in my life. But I will die for him. It's amazing. I mean, you think about it. I mean, the baboon would look at you and say, "Why would I do that?" But we do it. We do it because the level of our fictional understanding of reality is so powerful and so compelling that it has overpowered our reality and the common sense and the natural origin of our species. So fiction is very, very, very powerful. So ego took care of us in those 97% of our evolutionary times, and it was very good, and we needed it. It was wonderful. But then we migrated into a society where we began to live without the need, the tribal responsibilities, and we began to live in an enormous ocean of human beings in which I'm just a little individual. standing alone, and nobody expects me to be a warrior or expects me to be a sorcerer or whatever. So now we find that our ego, all these ego assets that we have in our psyche are not so necessary. And in fact, they become a bit of a hindrance. The problem is that the context in which we are living, the modern world context, is just so new that our evolution hasn't been able to catch up with it. I'll give you an example. So of course we are in pain. We are in psychological pain because we don't work well as a machine. It doesn't work well. So I'll give you an example. If you cut yourself if you make a small wound and you have pain, you don't do anything. Evolution takes care of it. And hundreds of agents and coagulants and all sorts of things happen in your body which fix that pain. And you know that it's being taken care of and the pain goes away. Because evolution has already figured out how to fix this sort of pain. But when the speed of evolution has been so fast as we have just seen, 8,000 years of this new psyche, we still haven't adapted. So we're still figuring out how to be a modern human being. So what we do with ego. So what do we do and why are we here and how do we handle this? So I have a little question for you guys. And Fleming, you can't answer because you know the answer. What is a thing?
What is a what?
A thing.
Thing.
What is a thing? Come on. You're an educated audience.
It's a thing.
What is a thing?
Yes, a thing is a thing.
It's something that we're not able to give an identity to other than the word signature.
Okay. A thing is a very powerful thing in our existence.
A thing
We're
is-
surrounded by things. Things are very important. Bring me the thing,
It's something that
And yet we cannot pin down what a thing is. And you know why? Because thing is a word. It doesn't mean anything. It's simply a word. However, it has an entity which is tremendously powerful to us. And that because we live in a world of fiction. And in a world of fiction, things are not real. And things are not real. But we are governed by them. Jordan Peterson, I don't know if you guys are following him, he's a sort of a modern speaker on YouTube, and he speaks a lot of philosophy, and he's been adopted by the right-wing Republicans as the philosophers of the right-wing party. But he's a very, very, very interesting man. And when he was a young man, he has these online conferences which are outstanding. And he gave a conference which I was very impressed by. And he explains that the way the mind works is a good half of our brain takes care of the information of the optical nerve. And what they discovered recently in artificial intelligence is when they programmed computers to act like human beings, they realized that they were unable, and this is a nice question to ask to Mr. Google, who's coming in a little while, that they have a tough time with getting computers to recognize things. They can't do it. Computers can't recognize things. They find it extremely difficult. They can't do it. And it's a very frustrating problem that it has in artificial intelligence, which is to replicate the way the human mind is capable of classifying reality into minuscule aspects. And the Greeks somehow had wind that something was going on. And in the 5th century before Christ, there was a big discussion which was held in Sicily, massive discussion, between two philosophers, Heraclitus and Parmenides. Now Heraclitus, he came from the Egyptian and from the Eastern tradition. And Parmenides was more Western and, if you will, Greek. In those days it was Greek. So he came over from Greek. He flew from Greek, and the other guy flew in from Asia. And they had this big argument. And Parmenides said, you know, we have the capability of breaking down reality through our cognitive ability and to fraction reality into objects. And this is wonderful operating procedure in which we can understand reality. And I'm really simplifying this. It's obviously far more complex, the discussion. Whereas Heraclitus said, well, you know, I have a feeling that reality is much more than what you can break it down into through your mind, that you're losing the picture by doing this process. You are getting a black and white picture of reality, of the universe. And they had this argument, and who won? Parmenides won. Because of course he was already living, and we were already living in the world of fiction, and we were loving it. The fiction is wonderful. So they were both sitting by a stream, and Heraclitus was looking at the stream, and he would see the water flowing, and the pebbles, and the trees, and the birds, and the universe, and the sense of unity and harmony, and he would be part of it all. And Parmenides was looking at the stream, and he was considering the temperature of the water, and the speed of the water, and the capabilities of building a dam, and harnessing the water and fractioning and looking at this timber that we have around us, and oh, that's a good pheasant that we can eat tonight. And so he was fractioning out reality in things and creating and converting reality in an opportunity, in a hindrance, or simply something neutral. And this takes me to the ethics of the modern man. We look at reality and we look at things. We're constantly looking at things. And if this thing is of use, we are constantly judging if this thing is of use, if this thing is a hindrance, or it simply needs to be ignored. And we are doing this process all the time. Computer, black, white, do I need it, don't I need it? And this is called an utilitarian ethics, which is much discussed in the San Francisco tramway dilemma, which, if you want, I'll explain to you later. It's a wonderful dilemma, ethical, moral dilemma. But the utilitarian ethics is a world in which I make decisions on the basis of what is utilitarian, what I need and what I don't need, what I need, and I'm trained for that. So I'm very good at judging, and I'm very good at picking things out. So enter the Enneagram, and the types, and the fictional mind. And we are trained to see stuff and to judge stuff, if it's useful or if it's not useful. So the first thing we are trained for is to see stuff. So we see. And then we make decisions. But it's very, very difficult for us to make decisions and to understand reality with stuff that we do not see. Very difficult. And of course we lose a lot of the picture. There's an economist, a 19th century economist called Basquiat, and he was a very, very important economist. And he points out that you cannot understand the economy if you don't make the effort of understanding the stuff you don't see. And he discusses this in great depth. And of course, once you understand his mindset, your whole understanding of economy is different. You can make it very simple. So if you see a guy driving a big Mercedes-Benz, you say, oh, look at him, he's full of money and he's driving this expensive car, and look at that man who's poor. So that's what you see. You see a man driving a big expensive car and you see a poor man, so you make certain conclusions, judgments. So Basquiat says, yeah, but wait a minute. I mean, that Mercedes-Benz gave employment to somebody who has a leather work, who has cows, and it also creates employment for somebody in India who creates electronics for the machine, and so there's a whole story behind that car that if you don't factor into your whole picture, you won't quite understand the economics of what you're seeing. But we don't think that way. We see the obvious things, we make judgments, and we move on with life. So, this is a brief introduction. Please don't challenge me, Julian, what is your proof for everything you have said, because there is no proof. It's just ideas, common sense. I throw it to the audience. It may make sense to you, it may not make sense. I like it. It's my little narrative and it worked for me. And it certainly helps me to be suspect of my personality, to be suspect of my tendency of fiction. Because we love it, and we love to see stuff. So we do it all the time. What are you? In this conference, everybody says, so what are you, Julian? And I look at them and I say, I don't know what I am. I think I've got a bit of 3, and I think I've got a bit of 7, and they bark at me and they say, yeah, but you have to be something. And I say, well, I'm a painting. And you're asking me if I'm blue or red, and I'm a painting. So paintings are not judged on the amount of color they have. Now, yes, I've got a blue sky in my painting, and I've got a red tree here. But I think we need to talk about the painting, not about the colors. It's more complex conversation. And he doesn't like it, and I don't like it. Because it's so much more confidence. Oh, he's a 3, okay, perfect. Now I get it. So much easier. So Carl Jung has this saying that says that it's much easier to make a judgment than to think. It's much easier. So we have to be wary and careful and worried about this tendency of simplifying life and making judgments and thinking things. So that's why I'm very much in love with what we're going to talk about now, which is the low scores. Now, the low scores refers to those energies that we don't have. Like Julian has a crappy 6. His 6 is not available. So this is a problem with Julian. And it brings him troubles. Like today, I had this little mishap. I should be polite, and I was not. So if I want to provoke transformation in myself, I need to look at what's happening with this little 6, which is not available. And so what we're going to look now is about this. So I have a master in Argentina who's a gentleman who's, in my view, of the tenure of Ross Hudson, of Helen Palmer, I mean, he's up there. He is absolutely amazing. He's been teaching the Enneagram for about 25 years. He used to be a priest, a lawyer, an anthropologist, a sociologist. He's one of the most educated people I've ever met in my life. But he has one major and enormous defect. He does not speak English. So he's unknown to the English-speaking community. But he's a monster. He's just so accomplished. And I've been studying with him for the last 20 years in Argentina. And I love him deeply. We're very good friends. And so we've had a lot of discussions on this. And so he says, well, look, when I look at an Enneagram and I see low levels, so like in your case, Julian, that you have a very low 6, I tend to look for a dominating fear. That seems to be a very powerful fear, which is keeping that level low. So I gave some thought to that, and then I discussed this with my good friend Fleming, and with Sharon Roy, a friend from America, and we've done a lot of brainstorming, and we tried to create a little formula, which I would like to share with you, and we're going to just talk a bit about this, about coaching people that have low levels and that need these energies, and perhaps I can help you figure out a little system that we've figured out, but you need to help me also, because this is in the making. So, first you have to, when we are coaching somebody and they want to provoke a transformation, so supposing you have this mother of 3 kids and she's a tool and she's out there for everybody, but she doesn't know how to put limits in her life and to take care of herself. So, and you look at her, you can do a scoring test or you can have intuitive understanding of it, and you realize that this lady does not have 8 capabilities. She does not have that. So in this case, of this lack of 8, you want to understand what's going on there. Then you want to understand what would be the fear. And Fleming very wisely points out, and I didn't have time to correct the presentation, but he says, Julian, I don't like to talk of fear only. I talk about assumptions. Well, why do you say that, Fleming?
Very shortly, it's difficult for people to identify with fears. It's a little difficult to talk on the level of fears. So assumptions or aversions could be a kind of pathway in, and then maybe we can find fear in that. So just a play of words or ways to get in there and work with the real thing.
Exactly.
So fear, talking about fear.
Yeah, exactly. The fear sometimes is the big monster lurking in a cave and nobody wants to go there. So aversion is a good word. It helps a lot sometimes when you are coaching somebody. Tell me about your aversion of this energy. And they will talk, and we're going to do some exercise now and we will go deeper into it. So then you want to make a coaching question because there's a cost associated to this. And remember, when we were cavemen, we were fine with our ego. We were, I'm a warrior, I'm a happy 8. And everybody's happy with me being a powerful, ego-driven 8. And everything is fine. But in modern society, that's a problem. Because I live alone, I don't live in a cave. And nobody cares if I'm a warrior. In fact, they don't like me because I'm a warrior. So I've got this problem. And I need to balance out and reharmonize my personality. Now I have all these capabilities. I can scale down my warrior energy and I can bring up my nurturing energy. But how do I do it? So I'm sitting with a coach, trying to figure this out. And this is what we do as therapists. So this is the little aid memoir. I have here I asked the organization to print out, but they didn't. But I have a 4-page brief of what we're discussing today. And if you want it by email, you can, I'm happy to send it to you. And it gives a description of each type and how to coach each type. So having understood this teeny weeny formula that we've created. So if I'm sitting down and I'm coaching somebody, and for example, how are we doing time-wise? We're doing fine. So type 1. Now, every type brings to play capabilities. I like to use the word capabilities. They are energies. I'm a 3, so I love capabilities. And so type 1 is a capability of bringing order and control to my life, basically. You can frame these capabilities as you please, and there are many other ways of defining them. Now, what would be the fear? So this person, why would the type 1, why would somebody not have type 1? So, why am I not bringing to play my type 1? Now, Roberto, my master, he says that in his view, it is a fear of losing liberty. So, having to organize my life, having to be rooted, having to be focused, I don't like it. It's a sort of energy, it's a sort of behavioral attitude which bugs me. So, because I want to be free. I want to be free. That's the bottom line. So the coaching question is, okay, fine. So you're sitting here with me, and what is the cost of living a life chaotic life without order. And that's the conversation you start having with the coachee. Now, in my experience, what typically happens is that in our narrative, in our assumptions of the types, like, why don't I have a 6? If I were coaching in a coaching session and why I don't have a 6, one of the answers I would give you is that I was married 26 years to a big time 6, a very anxious 6. And I was uncomfortable with that energy. And I had a view of that energy which didn't make me good. And of course, but the energy is very beautiful. The 6 energy is also, as we know, in its upper levels, is a very beautiful energy. And it's a wonderful energy to have. So, Julian, you've probably been in contact with a low-level 6 version. But can you describe me the higher level? So in types 1. So for example, it's very common for people who have a low 1 to know that, for example, their parents were very aggressive ones or very strict. You have to be perfect. You have to have the best class, the best notes at class, and so on and so forth. And so they created an aversion to the type. That could be one reason. And so they don't know the type in its beauty and its light. So the gift is to understand the type in its beauty. And it's not a rigid experience to be a 1. Not in the least. It's the search of harmony. A 1 in the light is not a person who is looking for perfection. He's looking for harmony. You know that perfection and paralysis are in the same word of the dictionary. So low-level ones are striving for perfection. High-level ones are striving for harmony. And I love the definition of harmony as loving grace in movement. And that's the sort of 1 that we want to be and that we admire. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to show you, we're not going to go through the 9 types because it's very boring and we don't need to do that. But I just want to practice with 2 or 3 types, and then we can do a little exercise and see how this works with us, and then we're going to have a group discussion. We've got plenty of time. I had 20 minutes. So listen, 3. I don't have a 3. And so the key capability is, as you well know, achievement. So what would be the underlying fear or assumption that restricts my 3 condition? Now, I've met people, beautiful.
Thank you.
Everybody needs to do 2 shows at the same time, so that's fine, I did it. And what I've noticed with people that have a low 3, very often it's, I have a fear of achieving and failing, but I also have a feeling of overachieving and being observed. Like 6s, for example, hate narcissists. Low-level 6 has a big problem with narcissism. So a low-level 6 will see the 3 energy as a narcissist behavior. And that's why they would push it down, which paradoxically enough is our integration path. 6s need to be 3s to grow as human beings. But if you're a low-level 6, you have a problem with the 3 energy because of its narcissistic perception. So the question is, what is the price of not deserving to shine? And when I coach people with low 3s, it's one of my best cases. A low 3 is somebody who judges that he is not worthy of shining. Very often it is the case. And they say, well, it could go wrong, or I don't think I should do this, and perhaps I should distract myself with other things, and you just look at them and say, what is your purpose in life? What did you come here to do? And where is your inner beauty, and why are you not showing this beautiful self to the world and putting it to service? And they look at you with fear. And do I deserve to be out there in the world? Do I deserve to make changes? Do I deserve to be an achiever? Am I worthy of all that? And that's typical, very, very common coaching conversation I come across with low-level 3s. So, one of the problems with 3s is that they are very conscious, low-level 3s. Once again, this person who doesn't want to recreate this 3 energy has a perception of 3 being a narcissist or somebody who has a set role, who is prone to be criticized by others. He was prone to be criticized for underachievement or prone to be criticized for overachievement, correct? And this is the perception of a low-level 3. And of course, that's what low-level 3s do. But what about high-level 3s? High-level 3s are authentic beings, are beautiful beings, beings who are very connected with themselves, with their power, with their purpose in life, and therefore don't have time for what people think about themselves. They only have time for fulfilling and achieving what they came here for. And that's a very beautiful 3. And that's who I want you to be in this coaching session. Discover your beauty. Because Hathor, Nut gave you the 9 beautiful energies, and you have them, but you've chosen to shut them out. Because you're frightened, because, how can we rediscover the treasure within ourselves? Type 4. Type 4 is, a low type 4 is very, very, very common in corporates, in corporate coaching. I come across it a lot. In the corporate world, we're all tied up with the, consumer life, and we don't have time for looking at ourselves. So, and of course, we are not trained. We haven't done any psychology or coaching or formal understanding of who we are. So we are terrified of who we are. I was that. Until I was 40 years old, I'm 56. Until I was 40 years old, over dinner I would say, shrinks are a scam. And this was my line of thinking. And it says, you don't want to go to a shrink, because you know what? The depth of a human being is so complex. It's like a vast turmoil which would swallow you up into a swamp of darkness. Who wants to go there? That was my line. Until I was 40 years old. And the argument was, can we talk about my new car? And, right? Terrified. I was terrified of going there, and I had assumptions of what it meant to travel within myself. Then I discovered the Enneagram when I was 41. I discovered the Enneagram. The way I discovered the Enneagram is a funny story, because I was having a barbecue in Argentina. We were having these raw steaks on the farm, and my brother-in-law, who's a dairy rancher, so he works with cows on a horse. He says, oh, well, my wife took me to a course. And I said, what sort of course? Well, something called the Enneagram. What is it? And he says, well, it's all about numbers and understanding who you are. You, the gaucho, on a self-discovery seminar. What's going on here? I couldn't believe it. And I said, he's onto something that I am not. And they were raving, he and his wife, they were raving about Roberto Bears and so on. So I told my wife, shall we sign up? And we did. And it was, I want to say there are 4 things which really dramatically impacted my life. The first thing was the military service. The second thing was getting married. The third thing was the Enneagram. I put it in this, and I'm not putting my kids. I have 3 children. They were natural flow of life. The things that, break, changing, and the 4th thing is divorce. So those are our, life-changing events. And the third one is discovering the Enneagram. Because all of a sudden I discovered that I had a way of going into myself without being frightened, without being lost, without being confused, without, I had a map to go into the mist. And it was a wonderful, beautiful experience, which I know you all share. And here we are. So the question is, Julian, when I was 40 years old, what is the price that you're paying by not traveling within yourself? And of course, I was paying a price. I was being very ego-minded and very focused on my 3 thing, and I wasn't happy. I was unbalanced as a human being, but I didn't know how to fix it. And so this is where, and of course, I couldn't travel within myself without, you can't travel if you don't have presence. And I didn't have presence, so I couldn't do the trip. So Roberto taught me how to be present and how to calmly go into myself. And that's where I slowly began. And if you look at that Enneagram, my first Enneagram scoring test, 16 years ago, my 4 was, down there. It's non-existent. And if you look at it now, it's up here. It's shifted phenomenally. Over the last 16 years, my 4 has gone from down here to up here. So there's been a tremendous transformation of my personality. And in fact, the growth of my 4 has improved my presence, and I would like to believe that I've improved in my level as a human being. And it took away my marriage, because I went on a way that my ex-wife went on another way, and we paid a little price there, a big price. But that's how I see it. So type 4, the trip within ourselves. Can we do it? Can we not do it? Type 6. So 6s, they endure. They're hard. They can weather everything. Very, very enduring types. Now the thing is that if you are asked to be a 6, you are asked to be enduring. You have to be that. You have to be loyal. You have to be available for somebody else's agenda. And I don't know if I want to do that. I mean, if that's your agenda. Why should I hook up to your story? I want my own little story, and I love it. And by hooking up to your story, I'm going to lose my liberty. And liberty is very important for me. So I have a fear and an assumption that being a 6 is going to compromise who I am, and I really don't want to go that way. So that's why I'm uncomfortable with the 6 energy. So the coaching question is, okay, Julian, so how is it worth living alone in the world, disconnected to everybody and unloyal? Is it a way of life? Does it make you happy? Does it work for you? And the paradoxical thing is that what Julian is lacking to bring his 6 to play is courage, which is the gift of the 6. So he doesn't want to be a 6. You know why? Because he's not brave enough. It's much easier to hide from being responsible of everybody's life. So Julian is not in contact with his heart center. And he's not connecting with himself, and therefore he is not connecting with other people, and therefore he perceives that connecting with other people is going to be because he's looking at an ego level. But if he grows in presence, if he connects himself with his heart, then it becomes natural and easy to be in contact and to connect with other people's agendas, and with having conversations and having mature relationships with my peers. But if I don't bring the gift of the six, if I don't observe the gift of the six, I will not be able to incorporate it into my life. All the types, I'm preparing a talk, hopefully next year we can hear it, which has to do with the virtues of the Enneagram. When you do therapy, group therapy, couple therapy, I love the notion, people say, oh, I'm a 1 and she's an 8, and crash, or she's a 4 and she's all over the place, and I'm a 3 and I don't have time for her. And it's so easy. Guys, look for your gift, for the virtues of your types. And all the types at the top, they all go together. I often get this question, so what would you recommend? A 6 with a 7, a 3 with a 1, and who goes to... At the low levels, the puzzle becomes complicated. And so, it gets difficult. But as we grow up into the level, the puzzle begins to disappear, and we enter unity. And everything is smooth and harmonious and beautiful. So the discussion isn't how my type and how I... No, man. Get out of your type. Grow. Mature. Grow up. Get out of this stupid game of your type and your fiction. Grow up. Grow up, you need to be in contact with virtues. And virtues are not academic, big words. No, they're in you. They're in the heart that you have, that you're not bringing to play, and therefore you don't want to be a 6. It's in the compassion that the 1 doesn't have. He doesn't want to be compassionate. It's much easier to be judgmental. So much easier to be judgmental. To go about life judging. It's wonderful. It's easy. That's what the tribe pays me for. The tribe pays me for. Remember, 97% of all our genetic history, we were living in the tribe. So we still have these behavioral traits. But the modern tribe doesn't care less of your 1. Not interested in it. But the modern tribe will pay, and you will enjoy compassion. Compassion, yes. Wonderful, welcome word. We need it. So let's put into play those beautiful virtues. And the Enneagram is so beautiful because it teaches us these virtues. So we need to bring them to play. We need to vocalize them and to speak them. And when we are doing coaching, when I do coaching, each time I do coaching with someone, I think of a magic word. Words, Carl Roger explains this very well. I mean, words construct our reality. We need to live with words because that's the way in which we construct the reality in which we can create who we want to be. And so I think, what is the magic word I need to give this person? There's always a magic word for this particular person. Humbleness, compassion. I'm a free man, and I was on a dating site, and I met this woman. We went for dinner, and she's a psychotherapist, very highly accomplished psychotherapist, very good, She works in the government, and she's got a whole bunch of doctors below her. She's a big-time 8, big-time 8. And she was looking at me, and she says, "So you are a coach? Uh-huh. So how much did you study?" I said, couple of years, I've read the Enneagram, read some books. So you understand human nature. I wouldn't say I understand, but I think I can help people. She says, She was skeptical. And I said, well, what I can tell about you, so she said, what can you tell me about me? And I said, well, that you're a very strong person, and that you have a strong drive, that you are not highly popular in your office. I can tell that, and that you're very accomplished, and you get stuff done, and you march into the office at the drumbeat, and well, yes, that's who I am. She would say, yes, this is our first date, first 40 minutes. And that's it. So now she was interested. She said, well, tell me more. And so we moved on a bit. And then I said, but you know what? So she says, yeah, well, and I'm not happy with who I am and how I am. And yes, I feel I should change. So I said, okay. So I said, can I give you a magic word? She looked at me. She said, magic word? I said, yes. Can you give you a magic word? And that was a very powerful date. And and so I say, give me your hands. So I held her hand, and I looked into her eyes, and I said, I give you this beautiful magical word. And I want you to take this magical word home, and I want you to put it in your night table, and every night, take it out, hold it, put it back away, take it in the morning. This magic word has to be with you. It has to be part of who you are. It's a beautiful word, and you give it to you. So pay attention. So I held her hand, I took it to her eyes, and I said, innocence. And she burst into tears. And she burst into tears. She said, nobody ever told me that word. And it's the word I needed. That's the Enneagram. You just read one book and you figure it out. It's magic, it's powerful. That's why I love this knowledge, this understanding. Very simple. I make it a point, people talk to me about tri-types, Hormevians, this, that. I don't study the Enneagram in depth. I don't need it. I don't need it. It's not necessary. It's a 5 thing to do. I don't do 5 things. I change lives. I change lives. And I think coaches, we are here to change lives, and we have 40 minutes to change lives. We have 5 sessions. If we're lucky, only 2 sessions, 3 sessions. But we need to change lives. We can do it. So that's the beauty of our wisdom. And listen, guys. Type 9. Creating peace and harmony. So Roberto says, when I see a low score 9, I'm looking at somebody who is very fearful of stopping. He cannot stop. He has to do stuff. Because if he stops, he loses terrain. That's the fear or the assumption in his view. So of course the coaching question would be, how worse is it not to stop? To calm down and to embrace my purpose and why I'm here and what I want of life. And meditate, calm down. How expensive is it not to do that? And how beautiful would it be if I could lead a life with all the activity I currently do, but with a focus and understanding of who I am, what my purpose is, how I'm here, and a relaxed, composed understanding of my being. So this is the gift of the 9. And so probably that's how we would coach a low-level 9. The other day I was coaching a gentleman, and he was an accomplished businessman, and he brought me the the scoring test, which, as we all know, is very unreliable, is still it's very powerful stepping stone for a conversation. So, and he had everything was all 8 types were above average, and they were all, so he had all these capabilities. He was organized, he was a worker, he was a lover, he was everything beautiful. And his 9 was whoop, no 9. He didn't sleep at night. He could do everything. He was a powerful man, but he couldn't sleep at night. So what was the problem there? I mean, he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop. His brain was, and he needed to stop and formulate a lifestyle that was coherent with who he was, with his purpose, and so on and so forth. So that was the coaching session. So I think the main theme of this conversation is we are the universe. We have everything in ourselves within to be powerful, to be brilliant, to be beautiful. We have it, but we've forgotten it. We choose to be frightened of it. And so now that we've looked into this, would you like to do a little exercise? So can I ask you to get in pairs? 1 and 1. Sweet of
We need another one. I need another one.
This is per group. Per group. We have copies per group, so just take one per group.
Sure, I think so.
Okay.
And one per group. Say one per group.
So, yeah, it's that you don't really need it for the exercise. You don't even need to read it now. You can just leaf through it if you want. But it's not necessary for the exercise at this stage. What I want you to do now in your little groups is to, first, I would like us to just be silent for a little while. To get into contact with our selves. We can close our eyes if you want. And the question is, what type do I not have? What is my lowest score? And how does that resonate within myself? How far deep is this lacking type? This lost energy or hidden energy? Found the energy. We think we know which is our lowest type. And now, softly, we can share it with our partner. So, one at a time, just 1 minute. Tell your partner what energy is low. I just need you to tell the type, and now the other partner is going to share his type. 30 seconds. Now we're going to elaborate. So now the other partner shares his low type. Okie dokie. So now we know. We know now our low type, and we've shared it with our partner. Now we're going to have a bit longer conversation, and the question is going to be, in this longer conversation, the question is going to be, what I don't like about the type, what I dislike, what is this aversion I have with it? Why do I have this aversion? Yeah? And so it's two questions. What I don't like about this type, and why don't I bring it to play into my life? Okay? So, I don't like threes because I hate threes. They bug me. I don't want to be like a three.
It can also feel sorry for them.
Sorry?
It can also be because you feel sorry for them. You don't want to end up. Yeah, it doesn't need to be the
Now you can elaborate. What you don't like about the type, why don't you bring it to play? Why can't you,
Estava tentada a conversar para mim. Sim, exatamente. Mas quando três virtudes. Eu, por exemplo, gosto do trabalho, outros, eu adoro estudar.
If you don't have it, prone to be.
Okay. So we've already discussed what we don't like about this type and why we don't bring it to play. So now, and you are all Enneagram experts, and you know you've studied more of the Enneagram than I have studied, as we have already demonstrated. So with all your thorough knowledge and understanding of the Enneagram, please give a description to the other party about the beauty of the type that you hate. Don't jump into it. Think about it. There is beauty to the type. Do your homework. Come on, you've studied it. You've learned about it. It's beautiful. You've heard beautiful things about the type. Can we share this with each party? Let's have a beautiful conversation on beauty.
Showing my because, you know, somebody takes wine in the shirt or something. You can
Do what you say. Others around you.
in the room.
Yeah, I said that to do probably where somebody's white, very red white. It was red wine. And it was just like, yeah, really. And I was thinking, it's not like expensive. You'll be judged. Okay, so
Not very good.
But I won't use that anymore. No more problem.
Okay, to me no problem, but that life changes everything. Sorry.
Okay, guys. Okay. Oh, you should switch. You should. Okay, I'll give you time to switch. Those who haven't switched.
Eu adoro ao meu ciclo quando vou ao ciclo. É muito tempo.
Okay then. So we're running out of time. So I need a volunteer. I need a volunteer to share experiences. What did you learn or what did you sense in this little exercise that we did? Would anybody like?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
I'm 4 and I'm very lacking in 1, and Margarita is a 1. lacking in 4. And I had a 1 mother, and she has a 4 mother.
That often is the case. Aversion has a lot to do with how we were brought up, correct? We're not the type that my master, Roberto Perez, he always says, I have a problem with 7 because my father was a dilettante and he was all over the place, and I hated that energy and I've never been able to incorporate it within myself. But it has to do with my father and how I was brought up, and I was brought up in contact with a low-level 7. And there's beautiful 7s. So what did you learn?
I was amazed that anybody would actually be afraid of going down to do the work of the 4, because it's like breathing. And then having that a 4 mother could possibly be annoying. And I really envy her ability to organize things and have a clean home. It's just failing me. It's impossible. And she doesn't want to do it that much now. And I find, wow, I can't understand.
Yeah, you're fed up with being one.
Order is serenity.
Okay, there we are.
Not so. It's not so too much important right now. Other things are more important.
What happens in a mirroring such as the one you are having, it happens a lot in couples, when one of the beauty of therapy with couples is very often opposing energies attract each other. Very common. And what tends to happen is that we fall in love because you have everything I don't have, and I admire you because of that. But what happens is that if we don't learn from the other party, we tend to delegate. So you do your one thing and I do my 4 thing. And as the marriage grows old, it goes stale because I haven't grown and I haven't incorporated into me your beautiful 1 energy, and you haven't grown and you haven't incorporated within yourself my beautiful 4 energy. We delegate. And then it doesn't work. And then and then you say this classic phrase, the same things that I loved about him when I fell in love with him, I now hate. You heard it. What does that say? That you didn't learn. You admire stuff that you didn't learn, you didn't incorporate within yourself. And that's why you hate it. Because, Carl Jung is, I hate about you because I see in you what I don't have. Who else? I'm struggling with my 90 minutes, but I'm doing well.
No, I think it's just interesting that when you do the questions, and I'm somebody who's quite new to the Enneagram, is that when you do the questions, your story, your fiction, your aversion, your whatever you see, it's actually quite easy. It's to see, not to incorporate, but to see what the beauty is. I mean, you just by even some change of words, because I know that I was talking about the 2 as being my lowest score, and my initial reaction always to a 2 are the words, needy, weak, victim. These are the words that I associate with the 2. And then the flip side of somebody who provides service, who opens up their heart and is willing to give of their time and themselves for somebody else, that the idea of giving and loving in a way that is natural. If somebody was brought up in the Christian tradition, this concept of serving others and how good that makes you feel when you give, and so it's so easy to see it, but then probably takes a while.
I give you a little present.
Yes.
How do you recognize? Yeah, magic word. don't cry on me.
I don't.
How would you recognize a low level 2 and high level 2?
How would I recognize them?
Well, I'll make it short. So, tools live about love. They love, everything is love, 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 love. So there is a difference between attachment and love, true love. So low-level tools perceive love with manipulative strategies, and they pursue love as they can. And because they perceive love as an attachment experience. And attachment is, I love you, make me happy. And true love is, I love you, I hope you're happy. So this distinction is very, very interesting, because we were surrounded by love in our life, but sometimes it's a sort of love which I need you to do certain things to make me happy. And that's the low level too. But when I love you and I hope you are happy, that's fine. So I don't expect anything from you. So there you have the distinction of one type and the other, of one level and the other. And in relationships, we see it a lot. You know, low-level relationships, where there's toxic relationships, there's a lot of attachment going on. He doesn't do what I want him to do, because if he doesn't do it, it doesn't make me happy. Low level. And high level, he does what he wants. He goes to play golf, he's happy, I'm happy. Who else would like to share? So, it's either a very boring topic or a very frightening topic, or Vesa.
I thought about the aversion towards indecisiveness in the six. So, not taking a decision when we have, looked at all our options, and still we can't take a decision, or you won't take a decision. That triggers an aversion in me. But on the other hand, I know that I take decisions on a very loose ground as an 8. And I need that quality around me. If I don't have it, I do stupid things, or I take bad decisions that hurt people, or other things that is not nice for me or others. So especially I've been a manager for many years. In a corporate setting, I always want a 6 in my team. Always. I need it.
That was very beautiful, and it's so true. That is so true. Nothing more to be added. It's as clear as it is. So you have a clear understanding of the value of that energy and how you need to bring it to play in yourself and in your teams, in your tribe. So listen, guys, let's go and enjoy coffee, and it's been wonderful talking to you, and thank you very much.